Hey, welcome to Southern California KPFK, Brother Steve Coakley.
Hey, good evening, brother.
One of our great researchers that have exposed the boule, a phenomenon that most of us in the movement never knew about until you came and brought light, took the sheets off of these Negro Klan members and explained to us what the boule is all about. So what we'd like you to do is tell us the history of the boule, who the boule are, the origins, and the relationship to the ruling class.
Thank you, brother. I would thank you for hosting me and my friends here, and appreciate you and all your company. Everybody's excessively intense, and that is the demand of the day. This secret society, this particular black secret society that we'll talk about today, is the first of the black Greek societies, started in 1904. And that word that you said, boule, is actually an acronym. It's a Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma Pi Phi, 1904 in Philadelphia. And for most of our people, we are not prepped to the responsibility of secret society in the American society. Mm-hmm. And this founding constitution, this illegal criminal enterprise, was a Masonic affair. And a Masonry is a form of secret society. There are other well-known secret societies like Skull and Bones at Yale, of which this corrupt president and his father were members of. And it is that society that the black society modeled itself after. So when they wrote their first history book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi, by a very noted black author, University President Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book for the Elks, the Prince Hall Masons, National Council of Negro Women, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Sigma Pi Phi. And as a result, in page 28 of its first history book, it noted that it wanted to be like Skull and Bones at Yale. It was right here in Los Angeles at the Good Life on a Friday night. If you remember this time, the NAACP had a convention here, and LeGrand Klieg and Marla Gibbs were accused of making inflammatory statements.
Working with Dr. Graham's book, The Mannequin Motif.
Yes, that weekend, the boule was meeting here, July of 1990. They were having their twice every other year convention, biannual. And it was a front page article in the LA Times by Karen Grigsby Gates, who denoted that these elite black men were meeting in Los Angeles at this time. That was the first. I remember sending someone to the car to bring it in, and we read it from the stage of the boule on July 18th, the day the story appeared, front page LA Times. And I thought it was unusual that the LA Times knew of this society, and I didn't know of them. Now, for our audience to understand, I'm starting off trying to explain to black people the impact of international policy groups like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, when the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s, New York 75, Cleveland 77, Chicago 79, and here in California they used Proposition 13 to suck up the surplus out the budget, and bankers began to take over from municipalities the governing of the cities. And as I was scratching, I could not figure out how was there such black complicity in this centralization of worldwide power, the New World Order. It's on the dollar bill, pyramid by white men who never built one, never saw one, but they emulated this symbol. And now comes a series of societies, and now comes forth this black one in 1904. As we began to read deeper, it had another analogy in the story to Skull and Bones. It wasn't until we got the history book that the analogy that looked happenstantial in the story in the LA Times was actually deeper in the actual history book, where they drew attention to Skull and Bones. It denoted that W.E.B. Du Bois was a member, and it began to describe people, influential people in the present-day society, and historically, our university, historically black college presidents are primarily coming out of this, advisors to the king. And that word, that boule word, can be looked up in a encyclopedia. Well, now people don't use them, they use internet. And that's a dangerous thing, a dangerous dependency. But boule, B-O-U-L-E, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave, the AKA called their convention, the boule. But the Greek word is what we're looking for, the advisors to the king. The lower house of the Greek parliament is called boule. And if you know the American congressional system, Senate, 6 years, more power, authority, only 100. 2 per state. Congress, 435, have to run every 2 years. Your lower house has less power and authority. So it appears as if, in finding the Boule, that within it was a subordination to something else. And in its history book, it drew attention. Here's a logo. And this is their logo is a Grecian sphinx. It's an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargoyle. Kind of ironically, the Boule had their convention in Los Angeles in 1941. At where else? Griffin Park. And this logo, this symbol, is a guardian animal. This would be similar to a Rottweiler or a dog or a German Shepherd. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
Let me ask you a question. I went to Howard University, for instance, and a number of African so-called Greek societies, fraternities, as well as in our community, there's a number of secret, semi-secret organizations. How is the Boule different than the numerous fraternities and groups in our community? What is the relationship to the ruling class?
Father, son. The nine make up the axis of the Black Greek dynasty. There are 4 male societies, 4 female societies, and the Boule make the 9th one. They're the first, 1904 series, the Alphas. I'm not versed in the exact order, but I have all of their history books, and each of them draw attention to things where they got their ritual from. The Deltas draw attention to Freemasonry. Said our ritual came from Mary Church Terrell, whose husband, Robert Terrell, was head of the Masonic Lodge in Washington, D.C. Mary Church Terrell, Mary Church, is the daughter of the first black millionaire in America, Robert Church of Memphis, Tennessee. Huge mausoleum to him there. Those societies, those 4 male, those 4 female, and the Boule tend to make up a aristocracy. We talked in the park about the 10%. Not in the sense of us in exclusivity, but them in the terms of deputizing 10% of the population to assure that the 90% never catch on. And it's very important to know that if you look to Alpha Phi Alpha website, there's alphas, kappas, Qs, and Phi Beta Sigma. There's Zeta Phi Beta, Delta Sigma Theta, AKA, and Delta, I'm missing somebody, Sigma Gamma Rho. If you look to, say, the Alpha website, they brag about being 95% of all black lawyers. Now, if the Alphas are 95% of the black lawyers, what does that leave the Kappas, the Qs? Okay, now we're in the 90s. They claim to be 65% of the black accountants, the lawyers, the doctors, dominating. And it may be that our professions are dominated by people in the Greek societies. At Howard, there was a student that I tried to help get a doctorate in engineering. Very exclusive about giving them out. If you get one, you're set for life. Morgan State, Howard are very exclusive. Took big money from governments to make engineers, but the brothers weren't coming out. And when we got deeply involved, we found how close-knit, how selective the professional process is. So he ended up at the patent office. He was a Kappa. He said, we have 15 blacks, 1 female, 14 brothers, and all 14 of us are Kappas. Only Kappas going to get in here. And there are jobs all over where we think we're applying for something fair and open. But I would suggest that the ruling class recognized this was a very significant period, D-Don, when they decided that they would give a college degree to a person of African ancestry in America who, after Reconstruction, should have been pretty pissed off. And so they were very weak about the Africans in America. Only 2,000. So there was this thing they went through, a born man versus the made man. The born man, the king and the queens of Europe, had to deputize people to colonize the lands, the Columbuses and the Cecil Rhodeses who went to Africa. They weren't the aristocracy, but they fought to be gladiators and colonists and explorers. The Lewis and Clark, who were Masons. These men used the societies to advance the wishes of the ruling class, and they set up a system, a circle within a circle, within another circle. Each circle protected the circle within it. So when you look to that Boule logo, you see there's an urn. There's an animal with the wing of the bird, the tail of a lion, and it's got an urn, and it's got its paw over the urn, and it says in the history book number 2 by Hobart Jarrett that in the urn are the names of the people who are chosen to lead the state. which suggests that part of the society function is not to make known who the people of power and authority are. And one of their most serious indictments to this society is what they were used to do against Marcus Garvey.
Could you explain that, please?
Marcus Garvey, who began to surge for Africa, the Negro was breaking free, doesn't have a good reason to get with the white American establishment.
You're right.
They don't have a good reason.
They're not getting paid.
They just built the country, got set free, didn't get the 40 acres and the mule,
Right.
got reconstructed when they began to move into the southern houses and the Senate. They got reconstructed and knocked back. So there's disarray in our community. And this is before the industrial cities of Chicago and others began to have steel and the stock markets. These are cattle, not bonds, where people began to work, and the South fled to the North to work in those factories. And Robert Abbott, who was a Boule man from Chicago defender, who it was a period when all the black editors were brought into Washington and told that they would have cracked down on Marcus Garvey, and their newspapers were not to be used. The Pittsburgh Courier, Chicago Defender, the Afro-American in Baltimore and Washington. All of these are Boule families, the advisors to the king, this group. So when Marcus Garvey came, whites began to think that maybe assimilation is better. Maybe we can escalate. Let's not let these go. Maybe they don't seem too pissed off about all of this. Maybe they'll forgive these things we did to their ancestors, and maybe we can trick them, have a little, want some more. So as Garvey began to move, they began to see that a Harlem Renaissance could have been necessary, that they could then attract Africans in America into literature and science and the arts and poetry. And when he said back to Africa, he's trying to get to Liberia. So R.R. Moulton, who was a big Boule man from Tuskegee University, who replaced Booker T. Washington. R.R. Moulton became a spy for the U.S. government to coordinate the program against Marcus Garvey in America. We have declassified documents that came out in 1993. The Memphis Commercial Appeal did the story about Martin King, Kwame Ture. A lot of things came out about spying. Well, in that, which did not make the public press, when we actually filed for the documents, there was R.R. Moulton telling Von Demon at Military Intelligence, don't tell anyone what I'm going to tell you about what Marcus Garvey said last night in Harlem. And the letters marked confidential. And, of course, eventually R.R. Moulton, who went to Liberia, was given $5 million to form a committee to keep Marcus Garvey out of Liberia. He never made it. He wanted to get there bad. They put $5 million. Now, $5 million in 1919, man, this is 50 million, 100 million today. Inconceivable. And they rewarded R.R. Moulton for trying to undermine Marcus Garvey. He got the first, check this is deep, he got the first black veterans hospital in the United States at Tuskegee. And then what did they give him for reward? Syphilis.
Wow.
You see the reward? See, he got something.
No back.
But what they got was bad, what they gave him,
So let me ask you, so in essence what you're saying is that the Boule represents the buffer class, the petit bourgeois, the comprador buffer class that manages Africa's workers, peasants, students, and middle class in many ways, and are paid well for that. And they receive their direct orders from the European capitalist class.
Yes, if you were to look to today, where Boule members like Vernon Jordan, who is managing director of Goldman Sachs, he took Bill Clinton to his first Bilderberger meeting in 1971. The black man took the white man from Arkansas to the big international meeting. Vernon Jordan, former head of the Urban League, who groomed Ron Brown, who then went on to become Secretary of Commerce, killed in a plane crash, murdered, because Boule are considered domestic. Martin King was Boule. Look at the relationship between Martin and Kwame over going against the war. You don't hear anybody in the African-centered community primarily against the war. They're basically accepting it or looking for what they try to get when whites are passing out things like, a grant here, this or that. They don't appear to be focused on that money that's being wasted, those billions of dollars.
You saying African and Afrocentric community
Africans
support the war?
They are not, no, I'm just saying they are not pushing against the war. Say way Martin King,
I understand what you're saying.
When April 4th of 67,
you're right.
1 year before he was killed to the day, when he came out of Riverside Church with Kwame in a shirt and tie in the front row, waiting to hear, because he called and said, you got to hear this. He comes out against the war. Boule men are told to be domestic, not international. Mickey Leland was Sigma Pi Phi. He tried to stop a starvation going on in Ethiopia, Somalia. His plane crashes into the mountain. Congressman from Texas, he dies. Ron Brown, Martin King, no question. Martin King became international, and that became his biggest sin. He was financed by some of the greatest foundations America ever had to offer. But if they get beyond the defined limit, then there's trouble.
In terms of young people today who are on college campuses who want to join fraternities and sororities, what is your advice?
It's interesting, the movie Stomp the Yard. I thought that was an interesting attempt to try to reconstruct the options, because they are catching hell in the streets. There is a rise of Kemetic-centered, African-centered societies that are repudiations of Greeks. And this is on the rise on many of the campuses around the country. And many of those fraternities and sororities, like the American military, were finding reduced numbers. Questions of hazing and brutality. And see, that's an important thing about a secret society, is the initiation or the ritual, which is an act of submission. I would never want anyone to underestimate when someone goes on that line and they beat them, or they make them do things or unusual things or ridicule them, that act is an act of submission, and that's very essential to keeping a secret society in order. How do you command that subordination? And so for today, when they're on the campuses, they see the Boule. If you look to the Boule Journal, you can look up SigmaPi.net. You can hit up my website, stevecoakley.com, and then you can link into their website. You look at their Boule Journal, you see what they play up. They're the head of everything. They're announcing every key position they have. They're the advisor to every person, every corporation. They're the black head of American Express. You know, we can just walk on down the line of those that roles were theirs and only theirs. No one got past. You know, I noticed that Harold Washington, our black mayors were uniquely Boule. Andy Young when he was Atlanta, Dinkins when he was New York, Bradley when he was Los Angeles. But none of those men were able to groom their man. So Bradley was mayor 20 years, but didn't have Bradley too. You know, Dinkins couldn't turn it over to anybody. Them white folk walked and beat on his door to run him out. Different cities. Detroit, Coleman Young was not a Boule member. Harold Washington was not a Boule member. And the relationship between the white financial firms and Harold Washington was uniquely different than it was with men who were more trusted.
Okay, we're going to take a brief station ID. We'll come back to Brother Steve Coakley, excellent researcher on the question of the Boule. Back to KPFK with Brother Steve Coakley, talking about the Boule and the relationship to the struggling African masses, especially the United States of America. Brother Steve.
Yeah, it just made me think about something we had talked about. You know, as a young brother in Chicago, really wanting to get involved in the movement. When I came back from college, there were various options in Chicago, and the black politics at 75 was still dominated by Mayor Daley, Ralph Metcalf, who was the first person to break away, whose assistant was Harold Washington, who eventually became the mayor. That first congressional district, which Bobby Rush, former Black Panther, is the congressman in now. That district, we had Hakeem Mahabuti there. Bobby Wright was on the west side. The NAACP, the Urban League.
Elijah Muhammad.
I was going to say, the minister actually came to Chicago just a couple of years later when Elijah Muhammad died, and he was brought in from New York and then stripped by Wallace D. And he stayed in Chicago. With that period of coming back, there was not a lot of things to get involved in. As I'm scratching, I found a book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. It's a white, right-wing kind of guidebook. And it says sometimes some things about us are communists or something. But I looked through that and I saw relationships with General Electric and Exxon Mobil, and I looked at all, and these relationships I started to research. It wasn't until I found them in Chicago that Chicago accepted what I was trying to say. We used to have one radio show came on WJPC, Johnson Publishing, who is Boule, Ebony Jet, etc. And Vernon Jarrett was the host of the show, who I didn't know was head of the Boule at that time, Chicago Tribune columnist, started AXO for the NAACP. And one day I called in and I was trying to explain some of this stuff, and he cut me off. He said, we're not going to have any of that. I didn't know he was Boulay. When I ended up becoming special assistant to the mayor, the other special assistant was Erwin France, who was head of Model Cities under Mayor Daley. He was an alpha like the mayor. They buddies, all of this and that, but I was a threat to him, but I didn't know at that time he was head of the Boulay. It wasn't until later. And then that's when I went to my friends, my African-centered friends in Chicago, and said, hey, man, I'm researching these white folks, and I think I found the black folks connected to the white folks. And then I started finding black folks' names, African-centered black folks' names. Jay Carruthers, you know, and now Jay Carruthers is my hero in Chicago. He's in a group with Bobby and Conrad and Bob Starks, a lot of people, Anderson Thompson, people I love. He said, man, we got to talk. Let's talk about that. And I started looking up other names. I saw Asa Hilliard's name, and so I felt that as I began to get deeper into this relationship, I began to notice that my African-centered friends were less happy about me getting to the bottom of this, and they wanted to focus me on, I remember taking me in a room. I used to work for Bobby Wright. I remember them taking me in the research room. They had put this map of the United States, and they had all these little pin boards on Montana, Utah, Wyoming. Said, now we want you to focus on these guys. I said, well, what bank do they run? And I was trying to say that the First National Bank of Chicago was Chase Manhattan, because the guy left Chase, came to Chicago, took it over. Well, time came. First National Bank of Chicago merged with Bank One of Ohio. They merged with the National Bank of Detroit. That's the region. They all merged with Chase, who had just merged with J.P. Morgan. And now Rockefeller got the banks from New York all the way to Chicago, nonstop. Every one of them locked down. But the Chicago was resistant to accepting this focus. See, why aren't our people focused on ExxonMobil? Why aren't no protests against high-ass oil prices, you know? I make my children know who's on the boards of all these corporations, the private equity firms that own all of the stock, Vanguard, Wellington, Global, Barclay Global. These companies are obscure to our community. We're not knowing. We're not focusing on the white supremacy that's coming at us. The Klan is not a threat to our African community. They're not coming in the neighborhood, but Chase and Goldman Sachs and Lazard Perez and Standard & Poor's and Moody's, obscure bond rating companies that can control cities that our people don't mess with, you know. I showed in Chicago and Cincinnati, which had one of the best boycotts of any city.
That's right.
It is. I mean, it was, and it still went on. Just last weekend, they tried to come back with a big festival. Mary J. Blige pulled out. Some more people pulled out. Kind of made it lose money. And but there in Cincinnati, we targeted 3 people: the Taft family, which runs the state, Skull and Bones. Taft family still today. The governor was just left as governor. We targeted Procter and Gamble, and we targeted Carl Linder, who owned Chiquita Bananas. And when we got through harassing Chiquita Bananas, some of our friends at the radio station there had stock, $119 a share. When we finished with him, it went to $5.40 a share, and he sold Chiquita. Now, what I'm trying to say is there's a vulnerability in America that has not been exercised by our community because our secret societies have been pledged never to tell us those vulnerabilities. They work for them. They patch them. They protect them. They act like they don't exist, but they serve them. And they never utter against them, even never whisper to us. If you saw on that Boulay tape when we were there messing at the convention, I told my buddies, we're not here to recruit them. We don't want them to be better brothers. We want to warn them that if they're the guard dog on white supremacy, when we jump the fence, what you going to do? You going to bite, you going to fight, or you going to run out and let us get to who we after? But how do we get to who we after when we got all this wing and wang out here, all this distraction, all this misfocusing, and then is there complicity in our community? When some people killed Martin King, when some people killed Malcolm X, did that neutralize our present leadership, who are byproducts of assassination? Did this put us in a bind? Do we have a lot of old paper out there that white folks work when they want to, that keep us in a bind, that we don't seem to talk back? How can they make $10 billion in 90 days in an oil company that was broken up when a white woman attacked them in 1911, Tarbell? They broke them companies up, them Standard Oils. And then they brought them all back together. Exxon got with Mobil, Chevron got back with Texaco, and all the things Rockefeller broke up got put back together.
Let me ask you a question. So would you say, because it seems to me the common denominator of all the corporations in the system you're talking about is capitalism/imperialism. So that in fact, organizations that are anti-capitalist as a theoretical formulation and specifically target these multinational corporations, oligarchies. That is the path of liberation for African people and destruction of this economic and political system. And maybe that's why also in this historical period we exist today, you find that very few so-called African nationalist or progressive organizations are anti-capitalist. In fact, what they're saying is we want to be part of the system as opposed to attack capitalism, but we want black capitalists instead of European capitalists.
And you know, it's the one thing we have to be careful for as time has progressed. If you were to go to Toynbee Hall in London when they created social work, when the rich felt it was necessary to infiltrate the poor so that they aspired through the tentacles of the rich that had been spread out amongst them, that if you fought capitalism all day and you ended up not fighting the social service network, you would find there's another aspect that might not even pledge to be capitalist at all, might pledge to be helping the people.
But most of those social service networks are either financed by nonprofits, churches, foundations, the state, cultural affairs departments of different different cities, some we can go down a whole list of these funding sources.
Right.
So in the final analysis, if we go after the capitalist system as a theoretical formulation, but pinpoint, as you say, with laser here, focus the specific corporations as a category to be assessed, especially in terms of the impact upon African people, like you say, the Poor's, the Standard, and these multiple bond associations that finance or definance infrastructure in our communities, and as capitalists now going to Iraq and Afghanistan to build their economic and social structure at the expense of ours.
There is a web. There is a web. There's sports. They're the media. They're education. They're social service. They're astronauts. They're the church. They are all of that. They are the secret societies too. And they all work in a loose-knit fashion, and they keep disagreements within a manageable limit. Let me just say a couple things real quick.
We've got about 60 seconds. And I want you to give out your website.
This Saturday at the FIBA Center, I'm going to give a free lecture. This Saturday, the Los Angeles South Central Study Group, been meeting there for 7 years, 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. this Saturday at the FIBA Center on 57th and Crenshaw. September 11th, we're going to Washington, D.C. The adverse impact of 9/11 on the African-centered community must be articulated. We are faceless in the scheme of terrorism and misappropriated finances of Iraq, etc. This Saturday, 10 o'clock, stevecoakley.com. You can reach me at area code 202-256-2097, area code 202-256-2097. Don't send me no email on that website. I won't read it. Call me.
Now, let's get into a little further the symbolism of the organization and where it picks up certain things. Speaking of symbolism, let me set that up there a minute, and you look at that and see if you can get the symbolism out of that. Thank you, brother. See if you can get the symbolism out of that. Maybe somebody might want to stand up and say what that is. That's the cover of the book written by that white guy, right? Y'all remember that? What's that other picture up there?
What's that at the feet? What's that at the feet? Black dragon.
Some black dragons biting at Clinton's feet. Clinton is on what?
White horse.
And what did it say would happen when the white horse came?
Yeah.
Yeah, check. Now, how much do they need to tell us before we know what they mean? Do we need to say any more?
No.
So that's the climate under which we operate. Here's what they call a Boule song. Listen to this. Let me take a sip here.
Sing.
Give me a 1 and a 2.
1 and a 2.
1, 2.
From far. So you're right. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you. From far and near, you've traveled here, over rough and rocky road, to reach the open portals of Sigma Pi Phi, blessed abode. Our hearts, our homes, to you belong, and glad we are that you have come to share our fellowship song. to share our fellowship song. Each archon who has dared to taste of the cup that threatened death, dear Sigma Pi Phi will defend with his life and dying breath. Should any for a Greek assail, his cunning words shall not avail. Our ears are deaf to envy's tale, even deaf to envy's tale. Hear that? They're saying y'all gonna jam us for being a Greek, and we're telling you now we can't hear this shit. And we won't listen to this shit. Because we'll defend what we are to the death. Long as you call a decision, I'll bring you the game. I'm going to read that again. Because there's symbolism in here that we have yet to fully decodify. It says, each archon who has dared to taste of the cup that threatened death. In the ritual, they must use some cup with some liquid to symbolize something. And say, you tell, that's poison in the cup. Dear Sigma Pi Phi will defend with his life and dying breath. Should any for a Greek assail, they put Greek in quotation marks. Should any for a Greek assail, his cunning words shall not avail. Our ears are deaf to envy's tale, even deaf to envy's tale. Though elsewhere bickerings annoy, here at least are peace and joy. Where friendships built on faith abound, strife and discord near are found. Then drink together, archons dear, the cup of fellowship and cheer. For as the apple of the eye is to us Sigma Pi Phi. For as the apple of the eye is to us Sigma Pi Phi. The apple of the eye. What do that mean?
Means the best thing to him. The apple of my eye. You know, that's the prettiest thing, like the prettiest girl or something. It's the best thing that could ever happen. The other thing when they say
the house, the boat, the yacht, the cars.
The death from the cup, that's what that symbol. You had the skull and cross, that's the poison symbol. It's on everything.
Yeah.
The cup is representative of the grave.
Of the grave? Grail. It's interesting that he brought up the word that the cup is symbolic of the grail. Because what we found out is that when you're a skull and bones, when you go over, you're called a knight. And the knight is symbolic of the knights of the round table. And that round table is the code word or the buzzword for an upper secret society that's in a book called Anglo-American Establishment, written by Carroll Quigley. And in that book, he said, in the opening, that secret society of which the Rhodes Scholars come from is known as several names. This society has been known at various times as Milner's Kindergarten, as the Round. Here is, that's a small picture of the Grecian Sphinx. We'll look at some more later. That's from the cover of the bylaws and Constitution. And you can see that under the slab, there's some writing here, in between there. We've got to talk about that and find out something about that. In the book called the Dictionary of Symbols, I found they had a listing for a Grecian Sphinx. And what you know about Greece is it has to have breasts like a woman, face up. They said we serve one maiden only. We serve one maiden only. All of them? And that's another picture of a Grecian Sphinx in a book on the Dictionary of Symbols. Now, and this is important. I was looking up, I have a definition here that if I can find, I want to show you, that has some significance. I'm going to ask, if he would, to have Brother Ashwa Kwesi come up and join me, if I could be so honored. And brother had just come in town today from out of town, and Brother Jamal and I and Brother talked on the telephone, and he looked at some of the symbolism that was encased in the Grecian Sphinx. Here is a larger version. I'm going to get an even larger version, but there's certain things there that you should take a look at just before I step back a second. Remember, there's Sigma Pi Phi. Look at the tail in the form of an S. Sigma. The wings are in flight. There's the urn. The urn has significance. Now in another picture I'll show that in the urn is the 360 degrees of knowledge. There's a little wheel in there that goes, there's a little circular wheel. I'm going to show you that off of another picture. Again, we just go through another link in. There's that concept of that round table again. You got to pull back on symbols. When I looked in the dictionary of symbols, it said under the word pi, it says pi comes from the Chinese word that means round table. Sigma Pi Phi. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Brother, I've asked Brother to share with you, let me find the best picture of it. Let's see, I said it here. Asked that he could share with you, and I'm going to ask if he would do this one again just before we do that. If he would, okay, you hold that one. I have this one here. I'll show it. I'll put it up while you do it. I can put it up. Okay. If he could explain again, just so we can get it on the camera, about what that means, which is put in there for just not arbitrary. When you're dealing in Masonic symbolism or secret society symbolism, you're not arbitrarily picking things and putting them there. And I just want him to say again what that might mean, just for the record.
First of all, I want to say hotel. And giving thanks to Brother Coakley for exposing the house Negroes. Keep in mind, when you go back as far as you can, all of this, first of all, came up out of Africa. Only the symbols have been distorted, manipulated, to the point where we don't know what it means today. Now, when we go back to Prometheus, now it talks about Prometheus, where did he have to go? When the Greeks say they had to cross the burning sands, you don't go north of Greece to cross the burning sands. There's no desert in Europe. He had to cross across the Mediterranean, and there's some burning sands there. What desert is that called? Sahara. That's where the knowledge was. He had to go to Mount Olympus. What was Mount Olympus? That was the land of Ethiopia. This is where the light of knowledge was. So in terms of passing the torch, this was symbolic of passing the light. So when the French, by the way, when they had the French Revolution there, Thomas Jefferson was also involved with that. Okay, the overthrow of the French government during that time. So, when America set up here, what statue did they give to America? The Statue of Liberty. What symbol do you see the Statue of Liberty holding? The torch. The torch of what? The light of what our ancestors called Haru. The light of knowledge. All coming from African people. That's why somebody knows something about us that we don't know about ourselves. They know we're the originators of the knowledge. We are the originators here. Now, brother, you have the other one.
Which one you want? This one? Okay. Now, we were looking for, as I showed you the Grecian Sphinx in the other book, we were looking for every Grecian Sphinx we could find, and we found this in Manly Palmer Hall's book under the heading of the initiation of the pyramid. We found this picture of the Grecian Sphinx. And I know you probably read the caption under there, and you see there are certain symbols underneath it. This looks similar to, and let me just see if I can find a larger copy, brother, just to set this up for you. I want to put their logo right next to it. And I got the version of theirs, the biggest one I had, right in my hand during the lecture. Right in one spot. Oh, here we go. I want to make, that ain't it. Well, I'll find it in a second. It was the best picture of that Sphinx that I had. Well, I used this other one. Don't look like I'm going to find that one. Okay, we better just go ahead off of that one. This is, brother's going to go into this a little bit and help us understand what they're trying to say here.
And again, we're going to look at the ancient Medo-Neter symbols here. The symbol here, this is called Kepara. Kepara, this is the symbol for light. This symbol here is called Ta. This symbol here is called Ner. This one here, I'm not quite familiar with the ending here. basically what it's saying here is self-creation of light of the landlord. Now, the feudal landlords in Europe came where? Here. So what they're saying here, they are the creation of light of the new landlords.
Oh, shit.
This is the land of the new landlords that most of us rent from the landlords.
The New World Order boys.
Huh?
New World Order
Don't own.
boys.
So that's basically what they have here. So I have right here from Kemet, long before there were any Greek freaks around, our ancestors have, there's the symbol of the Neb right here. Neb, creation. The Kepara symbol means to create. Wings meaning immortality, meaning spirit. That's what African people dealt with, African spirituality. And Ra meaning the light of Haru, created in the image of Ra. Again, you see the blue, because these colors, these are our colors too, by the way. Red, white, and blue. They don't belong to the Greeks. They don't belong to America. You see the blue on top of the scarab. The scarab was symbolic of the great mind. Now, in the third degree, Brother Coakley said that it was the third degree that was the blue degree. Is that right? That was the blue degree of the knowledge. Is that right? So the scarab represented the cranial cavity of the brain, of the knowledge of the mind, of Ptah, the creator of the universe, the first concept of monotheism, or concept of one God. So it is here.
You have to say that over one time.
The first concept of one God.
Just 1 second. Gotcha.
Go through the whole scarab.
Just that, yeah, just that little, yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother.
Again, you see the Neb, just like you see here. Neb means what? Lord. Okay? So this is Lord of creation, meaning Kepara. Wings represent spirituality. Ra, created in the image of Ra. Why did our ancestors say we were created in the image of Ra? Because we got melanin. Ra gives us color. So we're created in the image of Ra, the light of Haru. The top of the scarab looks just like the cranial cavity of the brain. This is where the knowledge is, right? That's right. This is where if we want to, our brain computer, we have to put out the knowledge that we take in, right? So it is here. The scarab was symbolic of the great mind that our ancestors called Ptah. Ptah was a one God concept, monotheism, in pre-dynastic Egypt. We're talking about pre-dynastic, we're talking about over 20, 30,000 years ago. So it is here, the great mind of the universe, showing that the colors, again, are African, belongs to our African ancestors. Meaning the blue. When Brother Coakley was talking about the Blue Lodge, was the third degree, was the degree of what? Knowledge. Is that right? So where do you see the blue at on here? On top of the scarab, the cranial cavity of the brain. Again, the red, our ancestors always did libation. Blood represented libation. White represent transcending into another state. These colors were taken off of the African temples, still there today. Many brothers have been there to see this, to witness it for themselves, who are right here in this room. Brother Jamal and many others, seeing the red, white, and blue going back over 3,000 and 4,000 years ago. So it is here that when we break down the Greek freak stuff, you've got to go back into your African ancestral knowledge to see what it goes back to. Our ancestors didn't call it the Sphinx, we call it Hermakit, meaning what? Good over evil. We call it the Sunum Bunum, who we are told that Thales, another Greek freak, who came into Africa, and originally we didn't let them in, by the way. That's right. But it was Ahmose II in the 26th dynasty that let them in as mercenaries to fight the Persians. But in any case, they came in. That's right. And when they came in, when Ahmose let them in, it is here where he learned the concept of the Sunum Bunum. It didn't go back to Thales. And the Sunum Bunum was a supreme good. Now, we also had our secret lodges, but it was based off of the concept of the Sunum Bunum, the supreme good for the salvation of your soul. Meaning that, I know this is going to get a little out there for a minute.
Stay with it, brother.
The pineal gland in the brain, our ancestors saw was the seat of man and woman's soul, the African man and woman's soul. So Rahamakis facing the east. When the sun rises up in the east, it hits him right in his forehead with a pineal gland, showing the suppressing of the beastly nature in man. So the Greek freaks, we didn't let them in because they were on a beastly level. I have pictures showing Greeks poking each other in the butt. You see, that's why this is not a new thing for them. Okay, it's not a new thing. And also about riding the hump. Riding the hump. Riding the hump. Right. You can go get the Demonology of the Bible, written in 1657. Huh? Before the King James Version of the Bible, they had Demonology of the Bible, and they had this goat. That's right. And they rode this goat. And this was the Satan worship or bestiality that they were in. Huh? So when the Masons said that they ride in the hump, this is the initiation for the beast. The beast that they're coming out of. Huh? This is all there. It's all there. So they never had the concept of the Sunum Bunum, the supreme good. So our ancestors taught this because we understood that if you went at the Netherus, that they call nature today, that if you didn't go at a divine level, it would open up the negative forces of nature to you. So you had to come through initiation from your high nature, not from your low nature. So the Greek freaks who came from their low nature didn't understand none of this. So when they went at the forces of the Neteru, like studying the concept of the atom, that they tell us Democritus brought the concept of the atom. No, he studied it from Kemet. That's why they were able to produce a hydrogen bomb. Because only a beast could produce a hydrogen bomb.
That's right.
Because he went at nature at a negative, on the beastly level. That's right. So the concept that we run around talking about, I'm this religion and I'm that religion, we didn't have no religion.
That's right.
We had African spirituality. Finding yourself one with the universe. Something that the beasts that you see right here, represented as themselves, haven't dealt with yet. So the concept of Harmakit showing the suppressing of the beastly nature in man to rise up the Sunum Bunum. And by the way, my brother, let me mention that the Grecian maiden is on top of the Capitol building. Okay.
And they just took it down for cleaning too.
Oh, is that right?
Yes,
okay.
The Grecian maiden right
is on top of the Capitol building in relationship with Brother Kope was saying.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. That's deep.
And by the way, there's some brothers in Japan, and they also wanted me to let you know that they're over there. The brothers brought me all the way to Japan to lecture to them in Tokyo, Yokota, and Masawa. And these are brothers who are in the military and got conscious while they were in the service. Got conscious while they were in the service. Right. So they brought me over to lecture, and there were some in a place called Zama who unfortunately got caught with the beast. They married the cave woman. And outside of Zama, everything went smoothly. But the brothers and sisters over there were highly enlightened with the information. Only the brothers in Zama who realized that this was about African nation building, to bringing together us as an African people, and they realized that they had to give up the white wives. So they had a hard time with that. But I'll let them wrestle with that in their own dream state.
This is actually, Brother Aswar, the larger size version of the Boulé's logo itself. This is off their rostrum. And as you can see, there's the urn, and there's something in the urn. Now, we've always talked about the circle within the circle as being part of that pursuit. Someone else looks at this and says, that's the 360 degrees of knowledge inside the urn. Is there any significance to that urn and that right paw being up?
I know that the symbol here,
you can use this.
Right off the top of my mind, I'm saying right off the top of my mind.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot either.
No problem, brother. I would say that this symbol represents the sun. That's how we represent the sun. It was a circle with a dot in the middle. Okay. That's how we represented the sun. The dot may have been the pineal gland. Also, go and look in the encyclopedia under the pineal gland, and it talks about the pineal gland. It develops your sexual behavior. Excretes the melanin, excretes from your pineal gland for your development of your sexual behavior. So if the pineal gland is activated by the sun, that our ancestors have Rahamakis, or Hamakis, that the Greeks call the Sphinx facing the east, if these folks did not live in the sun belt, that means they have an underdevelopment of the pineal gland.
That's right.
So this explains the beastly nature that you see out here today with all these freaks running around.
That's right.
With an underdevelopment of the pineal gland. Now, right off the top of my mind, I would say that represents the sun. And the sun is definitely bringing 360 degrees of life on this planet.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. So that it's up to them to identify where, because they're already into a context of mixed signals. One thing I wanted to show you before it got too late is that this boule, in fact, picks their people and makes their people leaders. And this is from the book on the Rockefeller family. And this is in the index, in the footnote on page 424. It talked about how Whitney Young wouldn't come against the Rockefellers at the Charlottesville massacre. And this talks about how the Rockefellers do most of their boule leaders. Junior had maintained, as Junior Rockefeller, had maintained the contact with black organizations begun with his involvement in Tuskegee, Hampton, Spelman, and other southern colleges at the turn of the century. For a time, he had token donations of some $500 a year to the NAACP. However, in '38, his philanthropy advisor, Arthur Packer, wrote a letter to Rockefeller questioning the future of this relationship because he was upset that the NAACP was insisting on trying to push an anti-lynching bill. So Rockefeller wasn't going to give up money because they were punching anti-lynching. Packard regarded this as radical, too radical for the Rockefellers to be involved in, but recommended a continuation of the annual donation nevertheless. Abrupt termination of the $500 gift might be regarded as a rebuke and would carry in the possibility of some kind of controversy. This is the source. At the same time, as NAACP filed Rockefeller Family Archive. At the same time, he was concerned about the radical program of the NAACP. However, Packard was enthusiastically behind the program of the Urban League, beginning with their support of the organization in the 1920s. The Rockefellers were contributing nearly 35% of the league's budget by 1940. And were deeply involved in the internal affairs and management. After returning from the Army, Winthrop Rockefeller, who went to Arkansas, became governor, went on the league's board of trustees, and in 1952 contributed $100,000 towards a permanent headquarters. When Winthrop left for Arkansas and the league began to drift, the Brothers Fund, that's Rockefeller Brothers Fund head Dana Creel, searched for someone to take over the leadership role. This is Rockefeller looking for someone to run the Urban League. Creel wrote Winthrop, "I have had several talks with Lindsey Kimball about the Urban League situation and the possibility of going on the board to see what he could do from the inside. 1, to strengthen the board, sharpen the possibility, and redirect the program. 3, help in the selection of Granger Lester's aging white director of the league's successor." Urban League files, Rockefeller Family Archives. Kimball, who became chairman of the league's board, had heard Whitney Young speak in 57 Sociology Convention. Then a professor at Southern Negro College, Young had reached the top of his profession. He had reached the top of his profession. He had little or no hope of being hired by a northern school. He was receptive to Kimball's suggestion that he belonged in the action arena. Here's a white man said, "Look, nigga, you belong in the action arena." Kimball then arranged for both Young and his wife to receive a 2-year general education. That's Rockefeller. That became the Rockefeller Foundation. General Education Board Fellowship for postgraduate work at Harvard. Meanwhile, he persuaded Granger to step down, softened the blow by a grant for a 2-year traveling fellowship from the Rockefeller Foundation. With Granger out of the picture, Kimball installed Young as the Urban League's executive director. It says, in the next decade, Young, who had joined King, Wilkins, and Farmer as the movement's big four, would raise the league's budget from $325,000 to $6 million, making it the country's blue chip civil rights organization. And it goes on to tell you that Rockefeller gave most of that money. That's the creation of a boule. It isn't just that they were trained in those Negro schools of which most presidents are boule, but the fact that for doing that, they would be picked and put in places, and that picking and putting was the authority of the whites. One other thing I need to show you here is that in the past, the boule has been mentioned in the black press. This is the main black paper, the Washington Afro-American, talking about Epsilon boule, talking about a nice big dinner, naming the names, and they had filet mignon and all the trimmings, and it was at the J.W. Marriott Capitol Ballroom a week before Christmas. But it just shows that the black press knew of the organization. But their writing on the organization has been puff pieces like this. Continued success to all members of the area boule. D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and to others throughout the nation. That's the Washington, D.C. paper, the Afro-American. Here's the Amsterdam News, a very aggressive black newspaper in New York. Here's a boule dinner there with the Sigma Pi Phi and thanking the families and listing the names. Again, my suggestion is that the black press has known and has never told. And the reason that they've never told is that many of those founding members of the various black presses are boule families. And that's in a lot. Yes, brother.
I didn't want to talk, but I wanted to throw that in when we were talking about all that survival thing. But for the brothers that are real hardcore and want to be up on some things, you need to get a copy of the Army Field Manual mapping book. That's the name of it. Official training manual teaches you how to navigate the version of lensatic compass, just like the lens on the camera. Lensatic compass. One good book you'll need, another good book you'll need is the Alchemist Cookbook. You get these at survival stores, teach you all the little neat tricks. These are the particular tools that all the mercenary groups throughout the world train with. The reason they use the Army Field Manual and Map and Contour book is that that's the standard. The U.S. Army's been at it a while, and that's the best book you can get on the subject. Also, they have these urban guerrilla units out and their base of operation out here is in Monterey, California. That's the U.S. Army. These boys didn't come out doing the ride. They wear black suits, black berets, and they're kind of relaxed, and you know, that 3510 is not there. You know, that neat cut military look. Matter of fact, they're taught to look relaxed, not the shades and all that. But they want to use them during the day. They're not military personnel.
Right.
All spook units.
And I can show you that that those various units are being told now to move into communities. They're taking simple positions as grocery store baggers, crossing guards, traffic coordinators. And I'm going to tell you something. Just yesterday, for the first time, I saw one of them damn streets with them cameras over the intersection. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. They're going to whip that on every nigga in the country because you let it happen to you. You're the only city in the country with cameras over the intersections. And it shouldn't be no night. You shouldn't be throwing rocks up there trying to bust the damn lenses. This is unheard of. What you say, brother? They got what? Antennas.
Remember the antennas that were next to the not microwave. I don't know what they are. Low frequency probably. Which changes the attitude.
Right, they could change behavior. Right, some erratic behavior could come from signals. Hold on, I'm gonna get you. And that's interesting. But I just make that suggestion. That's too deep. That's too deep that somebody, and they're dropping them up there one at a time, not all in the same neighborhood. Put one in one neighborhood, then put one 3 miles away, then come back to your next, maybe 2 months later, come a block later. Yeah, and that's just not a good.
The gay boule.
Okay.
We have the gay boule, the gay black political scene, and gay Hollywood. What do you know about that right there, brother? I would like for you to take the time.
First of all,
hold up. I would like for you to take the time and to explain it to our audience about what is the gay boule.
I'll go into that.
What is the gay political scene?
Well, I'll use this as the springboard. Two things going on here. Now, this guy here is undoubtedly gay. But here goes the white people again. Obviously, this has to be a personal picture.
That's right.
Or one that is not supposed to be used on the front cover of a newspaper when two people died. See, despite what you think about this guy here doing the shooting, another guy died in the context of this, which just so happened to be good friends with this guy. And which leads us to that whole political part I'll get into in a few minutes of where there's already been made mention that this was a lover spat. But before I get into that, I want to get into this particular part. What does it tell you about the mindset of a people that had a horrendous death, 2 deaths?
Hold that from the mic.
Yeah, horrendous death, 2 deaths on July 23rd, which is key. That's the African New Year in ancient Kemet and the rising of Sirius. So we also have some type of conspiracy going on. I'll get into it in a few seconds. But I just want to talk about this.
Why would they put this on the front page of the New York Daily News? You see? This picture of a man here, you know what I'm saying, sporting some butt crack and some damn plastic yellow pants on.
Because, see, they not only just talking about him. They
That's
talking
right.
about the black man, period.
There you
When
go.
they do things like that.
It's all a part of a propaganda of dehumanization.
right.
Not dehumanizing the killer, but
right.
dehumanizing the black man and black people in general.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, another person died in the context of this, so why are you going to make mockery in a certain condescending way the next day? Now, first of all, it was a ritual that's going down, and this is nothing but MK Ultra, the Manchurian candidate, where they can just give a person a phone call and he go and shoot up the place and kill this other congressman, councilman.
James Davis.
You see, kill this other councilman, and his middle name is Boaz, which is a Masonic symbol and a Masonic genealogy of Boaz and a pillar. You see, and so they would do this, and they would put this type of thing on the newspaper, and the New York Daily World is supposed to be very serious, and they would put this type of thing on. This is not by mistake that they would do something like this, and and then they would show another picture of him, and this will let you know, okay, they say it was one picture, we got this picture with his shirt off. Well, why is it that the next picture they show of him, he got his shirt off again? Which means they're trying to play on something that is going on. You see, his shirt is off again in this particular part, and he's all exposed. So this lets you know that they're trying to convey a certain thing, a certain image, and all. But you know, but it's not by mistake. Why didn't they put this one on the cover? It's a lot decent, but I'm just trying to say this type thing here is still a ritual to make mockery, and we don't get it. We don't get this particular part. You see what I'm saying? But this dehumanizes both people, because they are also insinuating that this was a lover spat. Also, and it very well could have been. But this is how they do things based on this. But it's also still going back. Now you got to understand that why did it happen on July 23rd, which is in case the African rising of Sirius, the star Sirius, and the African New Year for most of the ancient world, and the New Year for people in the ancient world, period. But not only that, remember, and I've been saying this since 98, that you must understand that whenever they do this during the summer solstice, it is for distraction. Whenever this happens during the summer solstice, it is always due to distraction. The Abner Louima thing happened during the summer solstice. This is always for distraction when they would put this type of this aspect on. It's just like this Kobe Bryant thing we'll get into in a few minutes. It's nothing but distraction. Why did they sentence him during the summer solstice? Because they know that during the summer solstice, let me explain out there for the people who don't understand, that black people are closer to not only the star Sirius, but the cosmos, but the production of melanin is at a higher level during the summer months. It's a rebirth of the human spirit, period. And so black people having the highest form of melanin, they have to put certain things that give you a conversation so you can be locked into foolishness so that you can miss some certain things. Because remember now, if the radio station goes off, somebody might start to think. So this is a form of propaganda, which leads us now back to the gay thing. We know now that the Boule, which is a black elite society, started by the Skull and Bones at Yale, and a black elite society, the Boule, which is the people who basically are chosen by the United States government or the Illuminati, let's put it that way, or the secret societies, to run the black neighborhood, whether it be Afrocentric consciousness, whether it be civil rights all-stars, whether it be Bible Belt gospel or whatever. They have infiltrated all forms of society. The Boule. Sigma Pi Phi fraternity. And basically, Tom expound the black community and make sure that we are always at a deficit when it comes to getting ahead. We are marginalized when it comes to rising to our own aspect because we always have this infiltration and this agent community that is not someone that's infiltrated amongst the grassroots, but the very heads of policymakers.
So when you say the boule is like the black elite?
Yes.
The black elites that tries to prevent black people from prospering.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And whatever time that black whenever we do get some crumbs, it is always guided and controlled by the Europeans, and they make sure that we don't govern our own selves. You see, even when we think we're making a decision, the boule and the government is behind that, because the first rule in the occult technology of power, which is the Illuminati handbook, is always be a part of all groups, fund everything. We fund the radical and the conservative. So even the most radical, a lot of times, have infiltration and can be backed by the same ruling powers because they really don't care, because they're a secret society. So they even fund the radical. This is a form of mind control. So the boule, but what is the code and the key that will keep a people year after year since it's been established in the early 1900s, to keep these particular people in secrecy to the point that we only hear about them in the 90s. And they continue to do these things. That is because they go under the same level of the people who started them, which is the skull and bones, which is the same ritual, whereas you have to have sexual intercourse with the other man, and that is your secret. That is the thing of yours. The La Costa Nostra, when they say this thing of ours, is the word for La Costa Nostra, this thing of ours. Well, what is this thing of ours? You are sworn to secrecy because of a homosexual act. So this is why it's so ingrained and rooted on such a higher level, because I fuck you in the ass, and therefore I always have this on you. And so therefore our secret, you see, can always stand. Now remember, now this is not out with a gay homosexual ring, whereas homosexual ring, whereas you gay and somebody screwed you and everybody, and you're out of the closet. There's no secrecy in that. These are for upstanding members of society, so on, quote unquote, that stand to lose everything because of the families, because of the whole social order, if somebody found out that they're gay. You see, usually these people are supposed to be the ultimate form of the virile male executing this fake falsehood power in these movements. Is the person that is getting screwed in the behind. So therefore it is an albatross around his neck, and it is a gateway of prison, and it is the strings that control the puppeteer controls, because they have that one secret on you. That is the chain around the neck, the chain around the foot that keeps them bound to slavery. You see, not because of the gay thing, but because of the type of people that are locked into the social order of taboo. These are supposed to be virile, straightforward men that run the society. So therefore, the homosexual thing will be a lot more severe than somebody outside of the closet. So this is something that is even greater, and they make sure that in order to come a part of that society, you got to go through the rites and passages and the oath, and this oath is Dookie Love, or the Hershey Highway. You see what I'm saying? Now this thing goes beyond that. In 1986, I came to Atlanta. I went to Clark College at that time, before it was Clark Atlanta University. They have at the schools, there's 5 schools there, but they all take classes. At that time when I was there, they all take classes at different parts of the AU Center. So the people from Clark will go, I'll take a class at Spelman, or you could take a class in Morehouse, And it was, you know, and so it's an intermixture of classes you can take all over their different schools. So it works like the regular white university, although the white man won't let them come together as one university. They got to be separate schools. So I was taking this class, an art class, from a guy over at Spelman. And he's one of the world-renowned artists named Lev Mills. And I went over to take a class, art class with him, took several classes with him. And I met a sister there that had known this particular sister that I might have known from South Carolina. She said, "You went to Benedict College, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, I went to Benedict College also." She said, "Well, you know Henry Pond?" I said, "Yeah, he was the college president." She said, "Well, one of the girls just graduated from Spelman." I said, "Yeah, she was in high school when I was a freshman." And I remember she later on went on to Atlanta. She said, "Well, she just graduated." And I said, "Yeah, because this was years after it was a couple of years from, about 2 years after me leaving Benedict." And she said, "Well, she just graduated." And she said, "You know that there's a meeting that goes on in Atlanta every year. And the big time dignitaries, college presidents, corporate CEOs, all of the great people that you would think of that has made it in this society that's exclusive, that the ones that the government approved, the ones that you see on all these TV shows and different things like that." She said it's bank presidents, any kind of top-notch Negro, they say that these people, they fly into Atlanta, men, and they have this great day in Atlanta every weekend, every year, a great day annually, and they fly in and they fuck each other. You see, so this thing is going even beyond the Boule. It's although a lot of these members and a lot of this stuff was chartered by the Boule, there's all these people and they go in and they fuck each other. These great so-called powerful black men. And so we're talking about an elite society, not just even in the secret society of the Boule, but your political society.
Are you talking about the gay Boule or the gay black political scene?
We talking about the gay Boule, okay, which would be the catalyst. The gay black political scene. You see what I'm saying? Whereas some of your congressmen is gay, like John Lewis. You know, he's there. He's always pleading our case, always hugging up white people. He's gay. You see what I'm saying? So we got these types of things that's going on. Like, take for instance, you have Morehouse College down there. Now let me show you what goes on in Morehouse College. They recruit thousands of young black males from all across the country. That's gay. And they come there as freshmen, and they will get an advisor, some type of mentor, which is a person that is a professor or a person that works in administration of the college, and they will be that particular person's mentor for a year or so. And this person comes, and he gets this older person. It's like that Greek thing. You know, they have these older men that come with the young boys, and they will get with these young freshmen, and they basically would initiate them into a cultural homosexual society. And they have these older mentors, and they get these young guys, and it's an entire gay system that goes in Morehouse College. Not saying that every guy goes there that's gay, but it's a gay system within the college that's sanctioned by the college. And they induct these particular people into an elite society of gay-ro-nees, as a new race to put it. And this elite society will be world rulers with their postgraduate secret society, the Boule, but it goes even further than that. Now, on the regular college campuses, you have your regular fraternities, Kappas, Qs, Sigma Phi Phi, Zeta Phi Beta, and the sororities Delta and AKA. That's your regular college campuses. Well, on Morehouse College, which is an all-male college, they have an underground secret society called Deltas and AKAs, which is a woman's fraternity, a woman's sorority on the other college campuses. There's an underground sorority for men at Morehouse College called the Deltas and the AKAs. It's an unofficial sorority that they, as undergraduates, join in its secret. So the Deltas and the AKAs is one of your top fraternities for black women on co-ed campuses and all women colleges. In Morehouse, which is an all-male college, they have a sorority of Delta and AKAs that's unofficial. It's not connected with the AKA sorority, but it's their own little secret sorority where they have the Deltas and the AKAs right there at Morehouse College. So what you got is you breed a whole homosexual infrastructure that will be the tomorrow's black leaders that the government can also step to, and they can be vulnerable because this thing of ours, based on my social aspect, I can't reveal to the public. So therefore you can control these people. So therefore it leads into the political structure. Now this also leads into the political structure. Now in everyday life, this is a cell that branches out to everyday life. Before I get to Hollywood, I'll get to the part that's everyday life based on what goes on in America. In America, the black guy that's writing a book on it is called The Down Low Male. The down low male is a black male that comes from a society where laws are taboo still when it comes to homosexuality. And it's not taboo in the aspect of this gay-phobic, that homophobic thing that the white man want to put on you. It's taboo based on culture. Now try to understand this. It means that they're going to be ostracized if they come out to the general black community. Because the general black community, our culture is not a culture of gay. You see, a gay culture. It's a cultural thing. Try to understand the difference. This is not homophobic. We're not hating homosexuals. It's just that some cultures, although there can be mass homosexuals in the culture, it's still taboo to be gay in the culture based on our historical background as coming from a heterosexual society. You understand where I'm coming from?
That's a disease, man. That's a sickness.
Well, let me explain.
We have to treat it like that. That shit is not normal, man.
Let me explain this to you.
Not for us.
Now check this out. So, as a result of it not being a part of our culture, you still have black men that don't have the choice to come out of the closet, because this means that they would have to step outside of our culture, which that is still taboo. Despite we know different gay people, it's still taboo compared to where it's readily accepted in white communities now. You don't say nothing about a white faggot.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? Or your ass is in a sling. You see what I'm saying? So, here you have these black men. Now we're not talking about the gay Hollywood now. We're not talking about gay political and the boule. We're talking about individuals, and this is real big. It's called a down low male.
Let's get to gay and hip hop as well.
Okay, we deal with that too. Okay. It's called a down low male. Mm-hmm. We'll deal with that with the Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
And the down low male is a person based on taboos. He himself does not consider himself a homosexual. Although he may go and engage in homosexual acts, he's saying that's just a sex act. It's like a role-playing game. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not a homosexual, so this is a form of a sex act. It's a different. He's not a part of the homosexual lifestyle, as he says, but every now and then he will go and engage in a homosexual act. And in their mind, psychologically, they're not homosexuals because of the culture they come from. So although they will be married and will have girlfriends, and have children, every now and then they will go and get fucked up their ass. That doesn't make them a homosexual. It was more of an experimentation, or more of an art form that they can take on and get out of, and don't have to be a homosexual. This is all a psychological phenomenon, and it's called a down low male. As a matter of fact, there's a guy that is writing a whole book on this thing called On the Down Low. And I know in 2001 he was supposed to be finishing up this book, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything on it. But the concept here is, in their minds, they don't think of themselves as homosexuals. Although they might go and deal with a homosexual act, they never think of themselves as homosexuals. You see, based on the psychological ramification of the taboo culture. You see what I'm saying? They must always mask that. And whatever they do, oh, that's just an act. That's a form of an engagement. But I'm not a homosexual. You see what I'm saying? So this is another part of the society called the down low male. Whereas another thing, these are people who psychologically hate women. They hate women. These are mostly men that have a lot of women. And the reason why they can get a lot of women is because of the psychological aspect of a lot of black women that have been trained that the only person that they truly like is a person that treats them a certain aloof and with a certain heavy hand, aloofness, and a certain disrespect in a way, because they have been trained in this society that kindness is a level of weakness. You see, and most young black girls will tell you, and most older black women will tell you, when I'm young, oh, I don't want no fucking nice man. I despise a nice man. That's right. Because that's looked on as weakness. So this whole hard thing, being hard, you see what I'm saying, is looked on. So they're looking at a physical aspect of strength and mistaking that as being strength. And when a person is kind to them, they mistake that as being soft and weak. And it is only when they get in their mid-40s and in their 50s and they realize, I can't really put up with a fucking damn person that's not nice now. But too often it's a little too fucking late. You see what I'm saying? Not because their bodies are falling apart. It's just that the gap of available men are not out there anymore when it comes to males, because they're either dead, can't function, you see what I'm saying, or socially married, or gay. So, but it's often too late. But the young girls, they want a hard nigga. Now this don't have nothing to even do with the hip hop culture, because this has been going on for years of what we think. So therefore, the down low male could be the one that don't really give a fuck about them. He could be the one that can succeed with multiple women. You see what I'm saying? And be misconstrued as being very masculine and hard. And they have a hatred for women. But the society say, I have a hatred for women, but my social persona, I wouldn't dare be caught with a man. At least not openly. You see what I'm saying? So this is a part of a down low male. Of a down low male and stuff.
Okay, but now, in our so-called community, you have a lot of young women now, 14, 12 years old, coming up gay, Brother Bob. What's up with that? Is that genetic? Is it
okay,
the food?
Now let me explain that to you.
And you know how you can tell if they gay or not? They wear their colors.
They
have rainbow colors, and they coming out the closet like it's all right.
I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna come to the defense of two things. Because there's two aspects. The woman situation is a little bit different Because a man has to actually engage in sodomy to carry out his act. You see what I'm saying? In this case, because the woman basically is dealing, the first level is oral sex. You got two phenomenons. This is very interesting stuff that we talk about here, because we all need to put this stuff on the table. So,
That's right.
we're not being disrespectful. We're saying that we're dealing with sociology here. If we don't deal with the sociology of our people, nobody else does. So it's left up to people to come in and deal with the sociology, for people to just try to understand what the society is actually going on. It's a case study. Okay. Now, dealing with the women, because the male has to engage in sodomy, there's two phenomena that is going on, and it's been very prevalent. But I must come to the defense of this, what's going on, because it's much more open. To understand this on the social aspect, you got two aspects that's going on. You got the classic butch or dyke, masculine female, who doesn't want anything to do with a male based on what makes homosexuality, you know, whatever the deal here is. They are the classic butch, or that male type of entity that is a homosexual in the aspect that it is completely never going to be with a male. Okay. Then you have, very interested in the female community, you have a female that sometimes is turned out by this particular masculine butch type of male, female, male, she-male, put it that way, that in so many words is not necessarily homosexual or lesbian in the classical sense of the term. You got some women that's caught up in, and I'm gonna give you some social examples, that's caught up in some type of experimentation. This is going, and I say this because this is going on college campuses and in high schools.
Yeah.
And they're caught up in some type of experimentation based on a vulnerable situation. And they go through this cycle. Now it's almost like the down low male. They don't consider themselves lesbians or whatever the deal is, but they go through this particular cycle. I'm gonna give you all these aspects, because this is it's a prevalent thing on the high school and college level. So I have to treat it with this thing and not just lump them all up into this, what you call it, because the men stuff is still kind of taboo. So you still gotta travel. Now you look at these two people, they blowing up. They got movies like crazy. Now, you got major female actresses like Angela Bassett and all these good actresses out here. They can't get no roles. But yet, this year alone, Queen Latifah is blowing up. Now, isn't it interesting now that she's blowing up off the hook? She did that little thing with Steve Martin acting like a buffoon.
Oh yeah, man. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, but I heard it. The woman, the black feminist perspective. I saw enough of it. I had a bad copy of it, and I saw enough of it on the thing and all to know that I didn't want to see no more. And then she was in Chicago, which won all Academy Awards. The movie Chicago, which was the play, which they had other actresses that played in the play. Jasmine Guy and a couple other people. When they got ready to cast the movie, they get Queen Latifah. But Queen Latifah will fuck anything because she's lesbian. And I'm not saying that she was right on. Well, she did the movie Set It Off, but right after Set It Off, she was on Saturday Night Live in a bar in the movie, on the TV show Saturday Night Live, and she got up and tongued this other black girl down on the TV show. So now all of a sudden she blowing up. which asked this question because they celebrated two people on the Essence Award. They celebrated Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah got an ounce of talent. She sounds like the same rapper in every damn role she does, even if it's a 1930 period piece, compared to Angela Bassett. And she's blowing up, so the Essence Award both celebrated her and Mary J. Blige. And you know the whole thing with Mary J. Blige. You see, so I'm trying to say here this again, this thing here goes beyond that, the Hollywood thing. Now, and just about everybody, I mean, Wesley Snipes had to go do the gay movie, To Wong Fu. You see what I'm saying? Had to go do the gay movie.
He was stuff like a girl, man.
Chris Tucker.
The whole movie.
Yep, Chris Tucker had to wear the dress in Fifth Element, his second movie. Had to wear the dress in Fifth Element. What's the name put on a dress? He finally made it to the dress in Wild Wild West. Will Smith.
Yes. But 300, that's the name of that movie? 300?
Yeah, I mean, he did the gay thing, 300 degrees of separation. But see,
I didn't see that movie.
But that was a true story about a guy. So he could say, well, it was just a theatrical true story. Although he sought out the role.
Played him right.
But he put on the dress in Wild Wild West.
I heard a white boy was on top of him.
Yeah.
Ving
Rhames put on.
I didn't see that movie.
Yeah, he's in the movie, and the white boy's on top of him, and he's screaming, oh, and the white boys, and the woman go around, and the white boy's pumping Will Smith, and he hollering like a bitch. Ving Rhames, Ving Rhames came to stardom. He's been in movies, about 2 or 3 movies, but his stardom came with Pulp Fiction when he got fucked in the ass in Pulp Fiction. Then he later on did another movie recently with Alfred Woodard where he's a big time drag queen. You see what I'm saying? Now let's go on. Denzel is our man, but remember now, Denzel had to get shot in the ass to get the Academy Award for Training Day. People don't know they shot him in his ass in Training Day. In the movie Training Day, he got shot in his ass.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Ain't no other white major Hollywood star ever got shot in their ass. So he out of the loop on the homosexual thing, but he got shot in his ass to do that. Now it's interesting here about your girl. Angela Bassett was offered the role for Monsters Ball and turned it down.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the one that they gave Holly Berry the Academy Award for. So we talking about a crazy clique that's going on in Hollywood. In Hollywood. Now let's go on. Like I said, your boy Jamie Foxx playing in Ali with Will Smith and all. But what'd he do? He comes on an HBO special talking about how he fucked the shit out of Prince.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking about he was gay for a few seconds, then he said, nah, fuck that, I fucked the shit out of his little ass. See what I'm saying? How he'll fuck the shit out of Prince. You see? That kind of thing. You see? And my point here about the gay roles, they take those fact that what's that movie? What's that thing that what's the name was a part of? Michael J. Fox, the TV show that he got his little Parkinson's disease and had to leave.
Living Color.
No, Michael J. Fox, and was replaced with Charlie Sheen. With Charlie Sheen replaced him.
But this was a sitcom.
Sitcom on ABC.
Yeah, I think I know.
Spin City. They got a black guy on there. He's playing the gay role on the thing. And I said, wait, hold on. It's too controversial. Now, this the same people that this the same people that ABC boycotted with Disney. Disney owns ABC. So the Christian Coalition boycotts Disney and ABC because Ellen tongues this white girl down on her show and loses her show. Well, here they got a black guy on here playing a gay role every day. You see what I'm saying? And nobody says anything about the shit. You see what I'm saying? Nobody ever talked about Spin City because that's a black guy playing the role. So what they'll do is they'll even give controversial roles. They'll say, well, give it to the black person. You see what I'm saying? It's like the Halle Berry thing with this Monsters Ball. What they're trying to do now is push the boundaries from rated R into soft porn. And they're pushing the boundaries. So what you do is, you don't want it to be controversial, black people hate white people hate black people anyway, subconscious. Who are we fooling?
Mm-hmm.
You give it to her, and if you saw the movie, that shit was graphic.
That's right. Hell yeah, I saw it.
It was graphic. So they take the soft porn, they're pushing the rated R, we show a few breasts, into soft porn, which is the shit that come on HBO and them at late at night in Cinemax. They're pushing it to soft porn, so what you do, you get a black person, because they're not human. And so they can do this without it being controversial when it comes to white people. So you don't get Julia Roberts. You get Halle Berry. And it's a political move. You see what I'm saying? Then the psychological ramification of her saying, look, okay, you black woman, you ain't got no black man. Now we're not going to give you the elite white boy. Now you can be his mistress. But he's not going to stand before you on the world stage with a black woman. But you can have our redneck trash. So you give him the monster ball and say, nah, it's okay for you, black woman, to go with the redneck Ku Klux Klan trash. Which he did. Kill her husband and the goddamn son get killed in the movie. And the same guy who executed her husband, Puff Daddy plays the part, he gets executed by Billy Bob Thornton. And she ends up fucking Billy Bob Thornton in the movie. You see what I'm saying?
And when she found out that it was him, she still fucked him. Now, on the flip side of that, there was another movie done with a white woman. And she found out that I think you was talking about that before, that he raped her, did some shit, and when she found out, she killed him. She killed her rapist when she came to her consciousness.
Yeah.
But see, with Halle Berry,
right,
she ended up falling deeply in love with him once he found out that he killed her fucking son and her husband.
It was amazing.
You got to be a punk ass nigga to accept a role like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Enough that Angela Bassett had enough dignity
P. Diddy
to turn the shit down.
And it ain't like you need the money. This motherfucker's a millionaire already. He talking about buying the New York Knicks and all that.
Right.
You know that, right?
Oh, who? Okay, right. Yeah.
He's trying to buy the New York Knicks right now.
You see,
so it ain't like he needed the money.
Right. So we talking. So we still talking the same Hollywood doing things, and they got a new thing, and they're gonna include black people in this. If they're doing it with white people now, it's called metrosexual. They're not, and metrosexual is they're not completely gay. They're just gay enough. And these are white boys in Hollywood, and they wear makeup, they wear different things. They're just gay enough. It's called a metrosexual. Well, I've already seen some of this stuff happening here in the black community. In 1997, I was designing shoes, but they didn't understand I was designing shoes because I found a way to draw the shoes, and I could draw these particular shoes, and I could make money because the companies in Italy could take my design. They didn't have to figure it out. They just make the shoe. So it was an economic thing I did. It wasn't because I was just in love with fashion on some particular level like that. I just was such a good artist, and I said I can branch out into fashion. So I was in an art class in Clark Atlanta University, and it was a tall brother looked like Maxwell. Was up in there. Nice looking brother.